Sometimes in life, we think we have everything figured out. We plan, we anticipate, we think we know how people will react. But then life throws moments at us so unexpected, so powerful, that they leave a mark forever. This is one of those moments. I never imagined that pretending to be a naive, simple mother in front of my daughter-in-law's family would end up teaching me a lesson I will never forget. It all started on a sunny Saturday morning, the kind of morning that feels calm on the surface but heavy underneath. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, landing softly on the countertop as I moved around, preparing for a family brunch that meant more to me than I wanted to admit. My name is Margaret. My son, Daniel, had married Sophie just a few months earlier. I adored her. She was polite, warm, and genuinely kind. But today wasn't about Sophie alone. Today, her family was coming over to meet my side of the family properly for the first time. I'd already met them briefly before, enough to understand the kind of people they were. Well-dressed, well-spoken, traditional. The kind who noticed details, how a table was set, how a sentence was phrased, how confidence or weakness showed in a person's posture. High expectations followed them into every room. As I arranged plates and straightened chairs, I felt a quiet pressure in my chest. Not fear, just awareness. I didn't want to walk into this meeting as the intimidating mother-in-law. I didn't want tension. I didn't want competition or subtle judgments hanging in the air. I wanted peace. I wanted Sophie to feel comfortable. I wanted Daniel to relax. And I wanted her family to feel at ease in my home. So, standing there in my kitchen, wiping my hands on a dish towel, I made a decision. I would soften myself. I would pretend to be a naive, almost clueless mother, the kind who asks simple questions, laughs easily, and doesn't challenge anyone. Someone sweet, slightly absent-minded, and completely unthreatening. No sharp opinions. No strong presence. No reason for anyone to feel defensive. In my mind, it felt harmless. Even considerate. I believed it would keep things light and pleasant. Help everyone relax. I had no idea that this small choice, this quiet little performance, would set off a chain of events that would change how everyone in that room saw me. And maybe, how I saw myself too. The doorbell rang, sharp and sudden, cutting through the quiet hum of the house. I paused for a second, smoothed my apron, and forced a soft, welcoming smile onto my face. My heart beat a little faster than usual, but I reminded myself to stay calm. This was just family. That's what I told myself as I walked toward the door. When I opened it, Sophie's family stood there, framed by the bright afternoon sun. Her mother stepped forward first, a tall, elegant woman with perfectly styled hair and a posture that spoke of confidence and control. Her father stood beside her, straight-backed and serious, the kind of man who measured a room before stepping into it. Behind them was their teenage daughter, polite enough to smile, but with curious, slightly skeptical eyes that missed nothing. "Hello, I'm Margaret," I said cheerfully, lifting my hand in a small, almost awkward wave. "Daniel tells me so much about all of you." "Oh. I hope you don't mind. I'm not really very good at hosting." I let out a light, nervous laugh and stepped aside to let them in, making sure my tone stayed warm and unassuming. As we moved toward the dining area, I kept up the act. I pretended to forget where I'd put the napkins, fumbled with the silverware, and accidentally spilled a tiny bit of juice while pouring drinks. "Oh dear," I said quickly, laughing at myself. "I'm always doing things like this." They exchanged brief glances. To my surprise, Sophie's mother, Mrs. Adams, smiled politely, her expression softening just a little. "Oh, don't worry, Margaret," she said kindly. "We understand. Everything looks lovely." Her words were gentle. But what caught my attention was the shift in the room. The tension I'd imagined didn't fully settle. Their shoulders relaxed. Their voices softened. They no longer seemed on guard. And in that moment, I felt it. My plan was working. To them, I wasn't intimidating or sharp. I wasn't someone to compete with or analyze too deeply. I was simply a sweet, slightly clumsy mother-in-law, harmless and easy to overlook. Just the way they expected me to be. What they didn't know was that I was paying attention to everything. As we sat down for brunch, the atmosphere shifted in a way that was almost unnoticeable. Almost. Plates were passed around, coffee was poured, polite smiles were exchanged. On the surface, everything felt pleasant and relaxed. But I noticed things. Sophie's father watched me carefully, his eyes lifting from his plate more often than necessary. His glances were quick, measured. As if he were quietly evaluating me, my reactions, my words, the way I carried myself. He wasn't rude about it. He was simply assessing. I kept my shoulders relaxed and my voice gentle, continuing the role I had chosen. "Oh," I said at one point, tilting my head slightly, "Daniel mentioned you enjoy investing in stocks, but I don't really understand how that works. It all sounds so complicated to me." I smiled, letting a little uncertainty show in my voice. He chuckled, clearly pleased by the question. "Well, it's not too difficult once you understand the basics," he said, launching into an explanation. They all leaned in a little as he spoke, confident, comfortable. Assuming they were educating someone who didn't know better. I nodded at the right moments, asking small follow-up questions, repeating things back as if I were trying to piece it all together. "Ah, I see," I said softly. "That makes sense. I think." Inside, though, I wasn't lost at all. I was watching how they spoke to each other. Who interrupted whom? Who waited to be heard? Who needed approval and who expected it? I noticed the pride in Sophie's father's voice when he talked about success. The way her mother smiled when he spoke, but corrected him gently when she felt necessary. The way Sophie's sister listened more than she talked, quietly forming opinions of her own. Pretending to be naive had given me something I hadn't expected. An advantage. They underestimated me. They saw softness and assumed simplicity. They believed I was harmless, easy, someone who didn't need to be careful around. And because of that, they showed me exactly who they were. I didn't need to challenge them. I didn't need to impress them. I just listened. And learned. Halfway through brunch, the conversation softened. The clinking of forks slowed, coffee cups were refilled, and the room felt warmer, more relaxed than when we had first sat down. Sophie's mother, Mrs. Adams, glanced around the dining room, her eyes taking in the simple decor, the sunlight spilling through the windows, the small details I'd never thought twice about. "Oh, it's so cozy," she said with a polite smile. I didn't expect such a charming space. I smiled back, tilting my head slightly, keeping my expression modest. "Oh, it's nothing much," I said lightly. "I just keep things simple. I've never been very good with fancy things." I shrugged, almost apologetically, and took a small sip of my coffee. Her smile widened, and I could feel the unspoken conclusion forming in her mind. Simple home, simple life, simple woman. Then Sophie's younger brother, Ethan, leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. He had that curious, playful look people get when they think they've noticed something clever. "Mom always says she's really good at reading people," he said with a small laugh, glancing between me and his mother. She can usually tell what someone's like within minutes. The table went quiet for just a beat. I let out a soft, awkward laugh and pretended to adjust my napkin, as if the comment had caught me off guard. "Oh dear," I said lightly. "I'm afraid I'm not very interesting to read." They laughed gently, the tension easing again. But inside, something clicked. I realized then that my act of naivety wasn't just working. It was doing more than I'd planned. It was making them comfortable. Too comfortable. Their guard was completely down. They were no longer watching me closely. They were certain they had me figured out. And that's when I felt it. A shift. A moment where the balance quietly tipped. Because while they thought they were reading me, I was the one who already knew exactly what they'd see. And then, it happened. Later, as dessert was served, the energy at the table changed again. Plates of pie were passed around. Coffee was poured for the second time. And the conversation drifted into safer territory, family traditions, holidays, and plans for the future. "So," Sophie's father asked casually, "what do you usually do for the holidays?" I smiled softly and gave a small shrug. "Oh, I'm not very good with traditions," I said gently. "I usually just go with the flow. Whatever makes everyone happy." Mrs. Adams nodded, her smile warm and approving. "That's nice, Margaret," she said. "We like easygoing people. It makes family gatherings much more pleasant." I lowered my eyes modestly, as if grateful for the compliment. Then, out of nowhere, Sophie leaned slightly toward her mother and whispered, just loud enough for the table to hear, though I doubt she realized it. "Mom, you don't know what she's really like, do you?" The air shifted instantly. Forks paused mid-motion. Conversations stopped. A few curious glances turned toward me, searching for a reaction. I felt my chest tighten for just a moment, but I didn't show it. I froze, pretending not to hear at first. I took a slow sip of my coffee, then gently set the cup down. When I looked up, I met their eyes calmly. I leaned forward slightly, my voice still soft, but steady now. "Oh," I said with a faint smile, "I might seem simple, but I've been through a lot in my life. And sometimes, understanding doesn't come from being loud or impressive. It comes from listening." The room went quiet. Not uncomfortable. Not tense. Just still. Mrs. Adams blinked, clearly caught off guard. Her smile tightened, then softened as she studied me more carefully. "Well," she said slowly, "I suppose appearances can be deceiving." I smiled back, not proudly, not defensively, just knowingly. And in that moment, it hit me. My little act of being naive had given me something powerful. I didn't need to argue. I didn't need to prove anything or defend myself. I didn't need to explain who I was. All I had to do was let them see the truth for themselves. And once they did, they couldn't unsee it. By the time brunch came to an end, I felt something shift inside me. As plates were cleared and chairs were pushed back, I watched Sophie's family gather their things. Their voices were lighter now. Their smiles more genuine. The careful distance they'd arrived with was gone, replaced by warmth, and something else. Respect. Not the kind that demands attention. The quiet kind that grows when people realize they may have misjudged someone. And in that moment, I understood something powerful. Pretending to be naive hadn't weakened me. It hadn't made me smaller. It had given me space to observe, to listen, to understand the people around me without pressure or resistance. While they were busy explaining, evaluating, and assuming, I was learning. Every gesture, every pause in conversation, every word chosen carefully or carelessly. They left that day with a sense of admiration they hadn't expected to feel. And what they never fully realized was that I had been present and aware the entire time, quietly reading the room, calmly understanding the dynamics, and choosing my moments with care. Sometimes, being underestimated is a gift. It allows people to show you who they really are. It gives you clarity without confrontation. It lets wisdom speak without raising its voice. And sometimes, silence and humility carry more power than any argument ever could. That day, I learned something I'll carry with me forever. You don't always need to prove your strength. Sometimes, pretending to be a naive mother is enough to teach everyone in the room a lesson they'll never forget. So, to anyone who has ever felt underestimated, overlooked, or quietly dismissed, remember this. There is power in observation. There is strength in listening more than speaking. And there is wisdom in patience, even when the world expects you to prove yourself. You don't always need to announce who you are. You don't always need to defend your intelligence, your experience, or your worth. Sometimes, the most effective way to influence a situation is to let people believe you're simpler than you really are, until the right moment arrives on its own. Because when people lower their guard, they reveal their true selves. And when you stay calm and aware, you learn more than any argument could ever teach you. Life has a way of surprising people. And every once in a while, you get to be the surprise they never saw coming. If you enjoyed this video and it touched your heart, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss more stories like this. Give it a like if it moved you. Leave a comment to share your thoughts. I'd really love to hear what you think, and share it with your friends and family so they can enjoy it too.